We are animals, aren't we? I mean, we are the end of the chain that came up out of the sea. We are the absolute end. But we still have all the inner drive down deep inside of animals. That's an animalistic quality to want to see two people fight it out. Wars have fought that way. Now, in boxing, that is a sport. It's I'm going to hurt you.
All knees shall bow when I get the gorilla in Manila.
Thrilla in Manila est le plus grand combat de tous les temps. C'est aussi la troisième et dernière rencontre entre Joe Frazier et Mohamed Ali.
Never again do we have two guys so important, so good, fight each other.
They weren't really fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world in Manila. They were fighting for the heavyweight championship of each other.
Les deux hommes se détestent. Une haine réciproque née des luttes raciales aux États-Unis dans les années 70.
When I get the gorilla in Manila.
I think God's gonna slap the hell out of him one of these days.
La rancœur, accumulée entre ces deux champions pendant des années,
He works for the enemy.
atteint son paroxysme à Manille.
And Ali looks tired.
Ali leaned down and he looked at us. He said, "That's the closest thing you will ever see to death."
Boy, that was hell, okay? If you were talking about a fight, that was a war.
Philadelphie, la ville de l'amour fraternel. 30 ans après Manille, le légendaire Smoking Joe Frazier travaille toujours dans le gymnase où il s'entraînait avant son terrible combat contre Mohamed Ali. Il vit même dans une petite pièce qu'il appelle son donjon, à l'arrière du bâtiment.
What else have you got in your bag?
Tape, some soup, I'm gonna heat up and eat, and some corn. And I got my water right there, I got my medicine I'm gonna take. That's go way back.
Frazier pourrait prendre sa retraite, mais il n'arrive pas à abandonner la boxe. À 63 ans, il continue d'entraîner des boxeurs avec son fils Marvis. Les murs de son gymnase sont une galerie dédiée à sa gloire passée. Il aurait pu devenir le plus grand champion poids lourd de tous les temps. Mais il a dû compter avec son plus farouche adversaire, Mohamed Ali.
In the ring, Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali were the equal of each other. Yet today, Ali has sold an 80% interest in the use of his name and likeness for commercial purposes for $50 million, and Joe is living in a room above his gym in Philadelphia. That's an interesting look at how America treats its sporting icons. Some are accorded special status and others are largely forgotten.
Le gymnase de Joe Frazier est situé sous une vieille voie ferrée du nord de Philadelphie, dans un quartier qu'on appelle The Badlands, les bas-fonds. C'est l'Amérique invisible, celle des pauvres, des déshérités et des laissés pour compte.
This is my home, and there's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, I'm not bothering anybody. I live here with my people. They call it like, boy, the ghetto, but it's a home wherever you want to make your home.
Voici l'histoire de l'autre homme de Manille. Un homme incapable d'oublier la rivalité sportive la plus féroce qui ait jamais existé. En l'espace de 4 ans, au début des années 70, Ali et Frazier disputent 3 combats spectaculaires qui figurent parmi les plus marquants de l'histoire de la boxe. Mohamed Ali est célèbre dans le monde entier. Mais ce que le monde ignore, c'est qu'il a déclenché autrefois une vendetta contre Joe Frazier. Et Frazier est persuadé qu'Ali en paye aujourd'hui les conséquences.
Whatever he indulged in his lifetime, it comes to show up later on as you get older. I don't care who you is. Whatever you've done when you're a young man, it comes to bite you in the butt when you get older. Trust me.
So do you think he's paying the price for what he did as a young man?
And said, that's right. God marks it down.
Mohamed Ali débarque à Manille 2 semaines avant la rencontre et fait une arrivée très remarquée, comme à son habitude. Il a récupéré son titre de champion poids lourd l'année précédente en battant brillamment George Foreman. Une foule immense et des journalistes hystériques sont venus accueillir l'homme le plus célèbre de la planète.
Ali was the star of the show, no question about it. The flight from Honolulu, which I took with him, was delayed just so he could come in at an appropriate time so people could be there and they could have live coverage of his arrival. Frazier, unfortunately for him, came in at an ungodly hour, and there was really nobody there to give him the kind of welcome he deserved. And probably Joe Frazier, somewhere down the line, felt that he was being neglected.
Seems like a pretty crazy place to hold a heavyweight championship.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's very. I mean, what, are you in boxing at all? I mean, are you coming from covering stock market or something? What do you mean? A fight is done where the dictator needs the fight to get the nation's mind off the revolutions going on in the mountains, or how bad things are and nobody's eating.
Les boxeurs débarquent dans un pays déchiré. Les rebelles communistes se sont soulevés contre la dictature corrompue du régime Marcos.
As soon as we got to town, everybody quit fighting, put their rifles down, and everybody came in town to watch Ali train. Fights occur where they're needed.
President Marcos was keen on demonstrating to the world that martial rule was not as bad as it may have seemed. So this was a showpiece event for him, and of course for the First Lady, Mrs. Marcos.
Le combat est l'occasion pour Imelda Marcos de montrer que les Philippines ne sont pas un pays instable du tiers-monde, mais une nation d'importance capitale dans le nouvel ordre mondial.
Power is never used, it's only felt. When the world went to my closet to look for skeletons, they found shoes. Thanks God I had only shoes, and the more they dug on my closet, the more beautiful paintings, beautiful jewelry, beautiful things they would find.
Imelda Marcos possède une fortune considérable, et son mari est bien décidé à dépenser beaucoup d'argent pour exhiber Mohamed Ali. Pour la dictature, c'est l'occasion rêvée d'attirer l'attention du monde.
There are varying figures put forward at how much it costs the Philippines. Some people said $10 million.
Apparently you paid $10 million to bring the fight here.
No, no, that's bribery.
La superstar Mohamed Ali aurait reçu 6 millions de dollars pour le combat. Quant à Joe Frazier, il aurait reçu la moitié de cette somme. Ali abuse de la situation. Il traite Frazier avec un mépris affiché. Il s'invite même à la première séance d'entraînement de son adversaire et fait le pitre devant les caméras. Mais cette mise en scène cache une intention beaucoup plus malveillante.
That sucker came in back back up. That sucker can't even dance. He's slow, he's short, he's slow and he's short.
Is everything all right?
Ali considère Joe Frazier comme inférieur à lui, pas seulement en tant que boxeur, mais comme individu.
See, boxers like Joe Frazier don't have an imagination. He's just a flat-nosed, ugly pug. He's just an athlete. You can't talk about nothing. Athletes are not as wise as you. Only this one right here is as wise as you.
This is a fight between him and I, and it doesn't concern other things that he throw in the game and try to fight you with. This is the problem.
Dès le premier jour à Manille, le mépris réciproque des deux adversaires est manifeste. Une haine féroce est désormais le seul lien qui les unit. Et pourtant, 8 ans auparavant, ces deux hommes étaient amis. En 1967, Mohamed Ali est objecteur de conscience et refuse de participer à la guerre du Vietnam.
Whatever the persecution is for standing up for my religious beliefs, even if it means facing machine gun fire that day, I will face it before denouncing Elijah Muhammad and the religion of Islam. I'm ready to die.
Ali est alors destitué de son titre de champion du monde poids lourd et perd sa licence. Le monde de la boxe et l'Amérique en général sont scandalisés par la décision du boxeur. Mais Joe Frazier respecte le sacrifice courageux d'Ali et lui apporte son soutien.
They were friends. Joe found Ali kind of funny. Once Ali lost his license to fight and went into the 3 years of exile, I thought that Joe was very good to him. What Joe said to me was, if Baptists weren't allowed to fight, I wouldn't fight. We understood and sympathized with what Ali was doing on religious grounds.
Privé de licence, Ali ne peut plus gagner sa vie en boxant. Il est désormais sans le sou et c'est son rival, Joe Frazier, qui lui vient en aide.
Joe and I, we are going to New York for some reason. Just so happened, Ali is staying across the street in the Sheraton. We get in the limo. You go right across the street. Now, once the limo door closes, it's something like this. I'm in the middle. Frazier's on this side, Ali's on this side. How's it going, champ? Good, champ. How you feeling? Each one of them is calling the other one champ. I take the money. I don't try to hand it to Ali and say, here's a loan, here's some money from Boo. I just say, hey, man, and put it in his shirt pocket. Joe says to him, anything I can do to help you get your license back. All this is happening inside this limo.
Joe Frazier scored a technical knockout over Buster Mathis in the 11th round.
En 1968, Frazier est alors la vedette dans sa catégorie. Il remporte le titre de champion du monde poids lourd, laissé vacant par Ali.
This made him, furiously, the heavyweight champion of the world because Joe Frazier is the champion of nothing. The heavyweight champion of the world was and still is a man named Muhammad Ali, born under the name of Cassius Clay.
Joe Frazier celebrated the coronation.
Joe Frazier est champion du monde. Mais la réputation de Mohamed Ali lui fait toujours de l'ombre. Il attend avec impatience le retour d'Ali sur le ring pour dissiper les doutes et prouver qu'il est un vrai champion. Ces deux hommes ont besoin l'un de l'autre.
Ali's star was fading, and Joe consciously helped to keep him in the public eye. They cooperated on several staged confrontations.
He used to call me every other day, Who will? I'll be gonna get this thing on. What thing, man? You know, man, I mean, you get down there and holler a little bit. And we can make it that license back.
Joe tried to get Ali a license to fight in Pennsylvania. I got involved in that. And
One of the commissioners was Chuck Bednarik, a football player of great renown. He was a gunner on bombing missions in World War II over Germany, and felt that once Ali did not step forward for the military, he wasn't about to do anything for Ali.
The first discussions of a Frazier fight happened in 1967. They wanted Ali to fight Joe in Tokyo.
That died, and we thought we had an Indian reservation in Oklahoma. I forget what tribe it was. The government stepped in and discouraged that.
They were talking about putting Ali and Frazier on a 747 and having them actually fight on the plane and have that televised. There were all kinds of things.
Joe Frazier décide alors de se rendre à Washington pour demander la réhabilitation d'Ali.
At the time it was President Nixon, I think, involved, as president. And I went over and talked to him. He said, well, Joe, you want me to have a license? He got it.
En 1970, l'opinion publique est désormais contre la guerre au Vietnam. Et la Cour suprême déclare que Mohamed Ali a été injustement privé de sa licence. Le combat le plus attendu de l'histoire de la boxe peut enfin avoir lieu. Mais dès l'annonce de la rencontre, Ali change radicalement d'attitude. Il fait une croix sur l'amitié qui les unit et commence à attaquer Frazier d'une manière qui changera à jamais leur relation.
He called me stupid. He called me ugly.
Well, number one, he's ugly.
Please.
He can't talk, he can't box, he can't dance, he can't do no shuffle, and he writes no poems.
He insulted in one way or another every opponent that he fought. But this was different. There was a kind of personal meanness that wasn't true with Ali and other fighters.
Durant ses 3 ans et demi d'exil, Joe Frazier a toujours soutenu Mohamed Ali. Il a pris sa défense. Il a fait signer des pétitions pour qu'on lui rende sa licence. Il lui a même prêté de l'argent. Mais quand Ali peut enfin remonter sur le ring, il se retourne contre son allié d'autrefois.
Now you're fighting a spiritual holy war when you face me now.
But when you're fighting Joe Frazier, is that a spiritual
yes,
holy
sir.
war? Why?
Because he's the Uncle
Frazier?
Tom.
Oh, he's not an Uncle
He's not.
Tom.
Why did he insist on calling me Cassius Clay when even the worst of the white enemies recognize Muhammad Ali? He's the other type Negro. He's not like me. There's 2 type slaves. Joe Frazier's worse than you to me. That's what I mean when I say Uncle Tom. See, he's a brother. One day he might be like me, but as of now, he works for the enemy.
C'est un revirement spectaculaire et Ali justifie son attitude en s'appuyant sur les maltraitances raciales dont sont victimes les Noirs aux États-Unis.
And Uncle Tom is considered someone who is subservient to white people or the wishes of white people. That is probably the greatest insult that one black man can call another.
Felt Ali had gone way over the line, so Joe felt betrayed. You know, here I am, trying to help this guy out.
I can't speak for that man. That's a different kind of guy altogether, you know. What do you call that turncoat? A guy like wishy-washy, that's turncoat. I'm not a snake. I'm not a Tom.
He portrayed Joe big time. But I feel to myself that, you know, like in his doing, he probably didn't think he portrayed Joe. He just think that he was a better man than Joe, you know.
Did it upset your dad at the time being called an uncle?
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. Ooh, man, Pop, ooh. I never seen Pop like that before in my life, man. You talk about Ali. No, we ain't looking. Oh, man.
Mohamed Ali se réfère en permanence à la politique raciale des États-Unis pour rabaisser Frazier. Lors d'une interview 2 jours après son arrivée à Manille, Ali pousse plus loin la provocation. et franchit une nouvelle limite. Certains trouvent ça drôle, d'autres insultant.
They told me I was going to fight in Manila, so I wrote a poem. It'll be a thriller and a killer when I get that gorilla in Manila.
And then he whipped out a little rubber gorilla, which was, he said, the soul of Joe Frazier.
Where we found that gorilla, I'll never know. But we found a little gorilla, rubber gorilla. Ugly as hell. He looked like Joe Frazier.
His head's gonna be rocking all night, see? His head.
Come on, gorilla, we in Manila.
I have a secret place I go to get ready for Joe Frazier. Every day I go to the zoo.
I mean, what did you think at the time of the gorilla comments?
I thought it was great, brilliant. Fighter you're fighting is so dumb as to let your opponent get under you with a doll. Were you a man or you're on kindergarten?
It's easy for a white man to say that. If another black man calls me an Uncle Tom or a gorilla or something other derogatory, that will not be easy for me to dismiss.
Hey, it's Joe Frazier! Joe Frazier! Joe Frazier! Joe Frazier!
Those are fighting words. This is the worst invective. And for Freddie Pacheco to say that about Joe Frazier shows how dumb Freddie Pacheco is about matters of race within the black race.
Hey, get him out of here! You make me nervous, get him out of here, man!
What do you think about Joe Frazier?
Joe Frazier's just an ordinary individual. He don't represent nothing. He's not intelligent. If you play his talk next to my talk, you'll find out that he can't compare with myself mentally. He's just a victim of circumstances, and he's just a tool. He's doing his best, but he don't know where he's at or where he's going.
Ali considère Frazier comme inférieur. Les deux hommes se retrouvent embarqués dans une lutte acharnée pour gagner le cœur de l'Amérique noire. Ali n'apprécie pas que son rival soit pris en main par des hommes d'affaires blancs du nom de Cloverley.
Joe Frazier became an employee of the company and the company's principal asset.
Le dernier survivant de ce groupe est l'ancien policier Joe Hand, aujourd'hui organisateur de combat.
In Cloverley, there were the 14 members. They were white people. There were 2 or 3 black fellas in there, maybe 2 black fellas. But as far as Ali was concerned, he was being controlled by the white people.
Tandis que Frazier est financé par des hommes d'affaires blancs, Ali est soutenu par l'organisation militante noire, la Nation de l'Islam. Voici l'homme qui l'a converti.
People would listen to him by him being the heavyweight champion of the world, and that was what we may call a great fish. We may have called a great propagator of the faith, who we called Muhammad Ali.
Les déclarations de Mohamed Ali s'inspirent directement de la Nation de l'Islam, qui revendique la ségrégation raciale et proclame que tous les Blancs sont des démons aux yeux bleus.
White people are not your brothers. They are not your blood and your flesh.
Elijah Muhammad was in charge. They ran a hierarchical organization. Nobody said or did anything unless it was approved from headquarters. These famous Ali lines about Viet Cong never called me nigger and all that, they were all fed to him, and he all recited them.
I was inside of his house. He came and told me, he said, Brother Captain, the reporters are outside, dude. What am I tell him? I said, just go out there and tell them you ain't got no quarrel with the Viet Cong. They ain't never called you this or that. And he did it and reverberated around the world.
And you started it?
Yes, I did.
But I represent to you God in person.
Do you think the Nation of Islam was manipulating Ali?
Of course. Of course. Where are you from? Are you going to ask me these kind of questions the rest of the day? That's an obvious. You should strike that. That's obvious. Makes you look stupid. It really does.
But it's
not. I mean, God damn, that's some ultimate manipulation of anybody I've ever seen.
He called Frazier an Uncle Tom.
Yes. Well, we figure everyone who try to please look up to white people, we look at them. Today we look at them as Uncle Tom. When you won't make a stand for your own people.
Ali est le porte-parole d'une organisation religieuse qui partage les mêmes convictions que les membres du Ku Klux Klan. Les deux groupes se rencontrent régulièrement pour discuter d'un éventuel pacte. Ali intervient même lors d'un rassemblement du clan et s'en vante avant le combat de Manille.
hell of a scene. All these white hoods on, the bonfire, and me on the platform, and all these clansmen was talking. I says black people should marry their own women. I said bluebirds with bluebirds, redbirds with redbirds, pigeons with pigeons, eagles with eagles. God didn't make no mistake. They say, yeah! They said, well, you teach the rest of them niggers that, everything will be all right. Normally, how the funny thing happened. One of them says, we got the nigger, string him up. And I looked and I jumped. One of them came out with a rope. He said, we're just joking, champ. And they let me go.
Gotta hold the gorilla.
Sous couvert de la plaisanterie, les attaques verbales d'Ali contre Joe Frazier ont toute une connotation raciale. À Manille, la situation dégénère. Ali ne se contente plus de traiter Frazier de gorille, il le harcèle en public.
It was an ugly time, and while, as usual, Ali may have been doing it in some form of jest, he also had to know what it meant to call another black man a gorilla. And yet he did it again and again.
Gotta capture the gorilla.
Why everyone call me a gorilla? I ain't no gorilla. I don't look like one.
The gorilla in Manila is gonna be a threat. Gorilla in Manila.
Ali présente Frazier comme un traître à la communauté noire. Une insulte d'autant plus blessante que Frazier vit dans l'un des quartiers les plus pauvres de Philadelphie, après avoir grandi dans le comté de Beaufort en Caroline du Sud, un État qui concentre la plus forte population noire des États-Unis.
They were particular hell. Growing up in America, in my country, in my position, in my land, the state of South Carolina. Tougher than Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, on down the line.
I visited Beaufort, visited the home. There was a rotting car on the front lawn. His mom was smoking a corncob pipe, sitting on a swinger, and the surrounding area was just bleak. And while we were there, Joe went to cash a check at the bank in Beaufort. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, and they wouldn't cash it. They wouldn't cash it for him. And I thought, my Lord, we haven't come that far at all, I thought.
Joe was much more the working class black person that Ali claimed to be speaking for. Joe was the one who went to work in the fields when he was 7 years old. Ali had never worked a day in his life other than at being himself.
But we all thought, of course, that Joe had to be an Uncle Tom. Why? Because Ali said so.
This man will be completely outboxed, outclassed. This will be no contest. That's all I want to say.
All right, what do you say, Joe? What do you say tonight?
I say he's just a bunch of noise, that's all. Who got the top good?
La campagne de dénigrement lancée par Ali contre Joe Frazier a des effets immédiats. Avant leur premier combat en 1971, Ali avait déclaré que tous les Noirs qui soutenaient son adversaire étaient des traîtres. Même le magazine Black Sports se retourne contre le malheureux Frazier.
It's all good publicity, that's the way he thought. But he damaged a lot of people's lives doing that, you know, but at that point he didn't care.
When I'm alone and I've got no one to dry my tears, I hear a voice crying now in my knees.
The bad side to being Joe Frazier's son was that everybody and their sister used to beat me up because I was Joe Frazier's son. Kids in school would talk about me. Oh, your dad's an Uncle Tom, you know? And I was like, what are you talking about? My dad's an Uncle Tom. My dad's not an Uncle Tom, you know? My dad's a good guy, you know? And, you know, like all the stuff that was being said, we had threats to our house at the first Ali Frazier fight. Guys were threatening our family that they were gonna blow the house up and do all that. And police officers guarding the house. while my father was in camp and the whole bit. I wish I could have gone to that fight, but unfortunately, we were under wraps with the police because my father was so afraid that something was going to happen to one of us, so we weren't allowed to come to the fight.
Mars 1971. Le combat de Mohamed Ali contre Joe Frazier est le premier à opposer deux champions invaincus. On le surnomme le combat du siècle. Ce premier combat captive une Amérique désormais coupée en deux. Ceux qui soutiennent Mohamed Ali sont noirs, libéraux ou jeunes, contre la guerre au Vietnam et pour les droits civiques.
We don't want to miss Ali do his job, you know. My man's gonna win, Mohamed Ali.
Ceux qui soutiennent Joe Frazier représentent l'Amérique blanche conservatrice.
Well, I don't know who's win, but I hope Frazier does.
Frazier. I favor Frazier.
It's now afternoon in New York City, and we're less than 8 hours away from the most extraordinary sports event of all time. This is the first World Heavyweight Championship in which both men have never lost a fight.
When that fight happened, that was the biggest sporting event of all time.
Big. It was gigantic. The fight leading up to it was so intense. Everybody was excited about that fight.
The ring photographer was Frank Sinatra. Burt Lancaster was the color announcer. It was a happening.
Quelques heures avant la rencontre, Ali est tellement sûr de gagner qu'il va même jusqu'à faire une déclaration en cas de victoire de Frazier.
Joe Frazier with me, I'm gonna get on my knees and crawl across the ring, look up at him and say, you are the greatest, you are the champion of the whole world.
I was the guy who was designated to go down to Ali's dressing room and make sure he ain't slipping no horseshoes in the glove and all that. Frazier's man, what up? What's Joe doing? Is he ready? And I'm like, oh man, I'm like in shock. I can't even believe, one, that the fight is happening. But now I'm in the dressing room and it's less than an hour before this fight is gonna take place. He called me Little Smoke. Don't let Little Smoke go. Tell Joe this is what I'm gonna do to him tonight. And he gets in front of the mirror and starts shouting about, tell him to take this. Can he handle that? Then he shuffled. I was like, oh, hell no, I'm about to pass out in here. And he says to me, tell these cameras to get the fuck out of here because it's time to go now.
Every time he breathed right down on me because I was his nose hole.
As he moves back, there's the big one. And no sign at all that Frazier's going to fall in 6.
He got hurt every round 2 and 3 times. Trust me, look at that.
Oh, what a big thumping left hook that was.
And then I've been loading sledgehammer on his jaw.
They've kept up a tremendous pace. That's a slip.
Boom! He went down. They said he slipped. Slipped where? Slipped in the left hook.
À la surprise générale, à Madison Square Garden, Joe Frazier domine le match.
Well, I know I got him now. The fight's mine. You know what? They couldn't buy that, steal, stole, rob, no way. The fight's mine.
Frazier's at last caught up with him. Tremendous left hook.
When he knocks him down, he's not on his feet. Frazier is off his feet, maybe 6 inches off the ground. He had a lunge with his left hand.
Bam, boom, all one shot, see? And that bang, and then bang, bang, boom, all in one shot.
It's such a shining moment for both of them because Ali got up before the count of 4. He scrambled to his feet.
That surprised me. That surprised me. I don't know what he's been drinking, but how he get that fast? It have to be knocked down like that. He got up and told us, "I'm all right." No.
And Frazier grins over Clay's shoulder, and he grins at his corner. It's over, and it's gone the distance. And Frazier gives him a contemptuous little pat on the head.
Des centaines de supporters restent à Madison Square Garden totalement incrédules face à la défaite de Mohamed Ali. Joe Frazier est le premier boxeur à l'avoir battu.
I know I'm the guy that closed down the butterfly lips. Yeah, I'm the guy that dusts his pants off. And this old little old me.
And the one thing that has not been seen is what Clay said he would do if he lost. He said he would crawl across the ring on his hands and knees and look up at Frazier and say, "You are the greatest."
And Joe started calling out to Yank as he lay on the rubbing table, "Yank, go get Clay. Tell him to come in here and crawl."
Hey, homeboy! Joe! Did we do it? Did we do it?
He was very, very satisfied at that point. He thought he had done what he set out to do. He had proved his point. And naively, he believed that there would be no more troubles from Ali.
I think I won on points. If you look at Frazier's face and look at mine, there's no comparison. I'm sure I hit him 3 times more than he hit me if you watch the film.
I told you I'd be a hypocrite if I thought we didn't win. We did win, I thought. So I can't be more clear. I know what you're talking about. What do you think you were? I thought the kid won. I can't be more objective.
We got dropped. But he didn't knock him out, did he? He got up and he kept on fighting. I mean, anybody that Joe Frazier drops like that, Joe Frazier usually knocks out. But he did.
You don't have to be sharp to fight Frazier. I understand Frazier missed 16 punches in that fight. Swing like a wild woman. You don't have to be sharp to fight Frazier. You got to be in condition.
Joe started hearing this and realizing he was never going to be accepted as the true champion by a lot of people, and that Ali was never going to give him his proper due as a black man. This made him bitterly angry, and has, I believe, affected the relationship to this day.
À Manille, Mohamed Ali sabote les séances d'entraînement de Joe Frazier. Il politise la rencontre avec ses perpétuelles blagues sur le gorille. Et à une semaine du combat, il débarque à l'hôtel de Frazier en brandissant ce qui s'avérera être un pistolet d'alarme.
He used to call me brother. Come on, brother, let's go. Let's have some fun with Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier was staying at the Hyatt Hotel, one of the floors higher up.
And Joe and I were talking, and I think maybe the window might have been open a little bit, but there was a balcony off his bedroom. So we heard this noise, and we looked out the window, and it was Muhammad Ali out there, you know, with his car screaming, "I'm gonna get you, Frazier," or something like that, and he was screaming up at the room.
Shouting at Joe Frazier, "Come on, Joe, you gorilla, you ugly guy," and he was pointing this gun. "I'm gonna shoot you, I'm gonna shoot you."
We come out to the balcony. He points the gun, pow, 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 like he's shooting at Joe, and we running back because you don't know just what he's capable of doing.
Well, I was like, whoa, what's going on? What are we doing? That's not what we're doing. Is that what we're here for? You know? I hit a hammer. Clunk. Clank. He stabbed it about 3 times.
I started to run around. I'm thinking, where's all the news media? Because if you go out the door, as soon as you walk that door, there was news media. You get off the elevator, there was, no matter where you were, breakfast, lunch, dinner, any place, it was just full of news media, all trying to get that extra little story or something. I couldn't find one person.
Contrairement aux événements précédents, aux blagues récurrentes sur le gorille, l'épisode du revolver n'est pas destiné aux médias. Il révèle une véritable obsession.
I don't see no reason why, but I think he was just scared of me. That's the word. That's the word. He was afraid of me.
Des 49 boxeurs contre lesquels Mohamed Ali s'est battu au cours de ses 20 ans de carrière, Joe Frazier est celui qu'il redoute le plus. Et Ali fait tout ce qu'il peut pour le déstabiliser. En 1974, avant leur deuxième combat, ils participent ensemble à une émission de télévision. Ali conteste toujours l'issue de leur premier combat, et une fois de plus, il prend un malin plaisir à humilier son adversaire en public.
White people say I lost. And that's some white people. All black people know I won with some sense. Because of my religion, because of my draft police, I didn't lose the fight.
First fight, Ali had branded Joe an Uncle Tom, and he knew that hurt. Second time, he called him ignorant, and that had some very immediate repercussions because they got into a fight in the studio when Ali said it.
Sit down, man. Sit down, Joe. Why you think I'm ignorant? Sit down, Joe. Huh? Sit down quick. Why you think I'm ignorant? The brothers are here. You doing this too? No. Sit down quick, Joe.
Well, it was real. No, it wasn't no joke. I mean, like, when I throw hooks, I don't be playing. I don't be jabbing on him. When I grab him, I won't take him out.
Joe wasn't doing this for television or to build the fight up like the fighters that come to this gym do. He truly disliked this guy. There was no love lost there between the two of them.
Le deuxième combat en 1974 est décevant. Ali se méfie de la puissance de Frazier et se borne à le contenir. Il finit par gagner au point. L'entraîneur de Frazier, Eddie Futch, est furieux et accuse l'arbitre de favoriser Ali.
Tony Perez allowed Ali to hold Joe behind the head in such a way that Joe couldn't do the body work that he did in the first and third fights.
L'arbitre Tony Perez dira plus tard qu'il ne pouvait rien faire, parce que Frazier avait l'air satisfait de combattre au corps à corps.
Since the first fight, you said that was a white man's decision. What was last night's?
White man's decision. Still was. The first time was his wrong decision, this time was his right decision.
Il manque au combat l'excitation des grandes rencontres, parce qu'aucun des adversaires n'est plus champion du monde. Un an auparavant, en janvier 73, Frazier a cédé son titre à George Foreman à Kingston, en Jamaïque.
I was 5 seats away ringside with Howard Cosell, and I could hear Cosell announcing the fight. He said, "Good evening, sports fans, and welcome here to Kingston, Jamaica. We're here right now to see two of the greatest pugilists of this fistic era." And then the bell rings for the first round. He said, "Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, first round next. Frazier comes out bombing, weaving. Foreman goes right. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier." Frazier, watch out! Now, when my father fell the first time, I started laughing. I was like, "Daddy, stop playing, man. Stop playing. Why are you playing, Daddy? Stop that playing. Stop playing."
Sensation in the first 2 minutes.
The referee summons Frazier to his feet. He gives him the 8 count. He summons them back together again. Foreman throws another way. Down goes Frazier again. Down goes Frazier again. And my father fell the second time, man. I said, "Daddy, stop playing, man. Why you playing? Why you playing?"
And he is Joe's in real trouble. All over the ring.
He's taking the mandatory 8 count.
And then my father fell about 4 more times.
There it is, and he's over again. Got this title in his first fight, 4th time down. The champion now, absolutely needed. Again, a left this time.
The fight is over. The fight is over.
Then the reality hit me. Man, Daddy's not playing. And that was the first time I realized that my dad was human just like any other man.
George Foreman pulvérise Frazier en seulement 2 reprises et devient le champion du monde des poids lourds. Mais là où Joe a échoué, Ali triomphe. Il détrône Foreman l'année suivante au Zaïre. Contre toute attente, il récupère son titre par KO à la 8e reprise lors d'un combat baptisé The Rumble in the Jungle, bagarre dans la jungle.
I am the true champion of the world, and they all shall bow.
Le public est impatient d'assister à un combat qui départagerait une bonne fois pour toutes les 2 champions. Ali ne demande pas mieux, car il est persuadé que Frazier est au bout du rouleau.
It's going to be a thriller and a chiller and a killer when I get the gorilla in Manila.
And he must lose in the round I choose.
He just knocked out George Foreman. He had won back the title, and Ali is full of himself as a fighter and as a man.
This game is so easy. I'm the greatest fighter of all times. I knocked out George Foreman, did y'all forget? I'll beat him like he's amateur.
The Philippine fight was an absolute gift. The only reason we gave him that fight was we thought he was shot. Let's give poor Joe a fight. I hear he's bad on his money. Let's give him $1 million. That's how he got that fight. Ali did that. Everybody said, oh, not Joe Frazier again. He said, he's shot.
Yeah. It's all over. Fight might not go 2 minutes.
Some people didn't expect you to have any chance in that fight, Manila, after what had happened to you with George Foreman.
You got a different kind of man. 2 different guys all together. One was a puncher, a sledgehammer driving scambooger. And another guy make a lot of noise and jab and run.
I always comb my hair when the press is here because I must preserve my beauty.
He has kissed half the children and 2/3 of the women of the islands.
Ali croit que ce 3e combat sera une partie de plaisir. Il est à Manille pour s'offrir du bon temps et a laissé sa femme Belinda aux États-Unis. C'est sa nouvelle petite amie, Véronica Porsche, qui l'accompagne lors de ce voyage.
He was something of a womanizer, and being married didn't stop him. There was this incongruity between the fact that he was a man who in many ways seemed devout in his religious beliefs and preached the sanctity of women and respect for women, and yet didn't show an awful lot of respect for his wife.
This was a pussy fight. That's all this was. Yeah, it was sex. That's what it was. I mean, he wanted to get away from Belinda. Pure, great time with the other girl, without anybody around to have to hide. Well, if you've ever been in that position, I hope you haven't. It's not easy. It's not easy to juggle 2 girls at one time.
See, he went with Veronica Porsche to the presidential palace. When he introduced Veronica to the president, Marcos said, "You've got a very beautiful wife."
Gentleman also that he was, he said, "No, Mr. President, your wife is more beautiful than my friend."
Flaunting her so boldly that the president of the Philippines, among others, thought Veronica was Mrs. Ali.
And Belinda apparently saw the footage on television. She took the first flight and came charging in.
Actually, on the plane that I was on, she flew there in a cold rage with a phalanx of Muslim bodyguards.
One of the American networks, they were about to do an interview when Belinda stormed into his suite there, and it was kind of noisy.
Stop in my
Joe's camp looked at Ali's camp as though it was in chaos and that this was going to work to Joe's advantage.
À 5 jours du match, Joe Frazier quitte Manille pour s'isoler dans une villa à l'extérieur de la ville. Pendant qu'Ali s'amuse avec sa maîtresse, Frazier mène une vie de reclus avec une seule chose en tête, le combat.
There's so much tension the week leading up to the Thrilla in Manila. It was decided that we need to get Joe out of the hotel. They moved Joe out to this villa on the outskirts of Manila, mountainside. He and I just stayed there by ourselves. We would stand outside, like on this bluff or whatever, right up to the back of the house, and just look. Stand there for hours at a time, not talking. He's not saying nothing. I'm not saying nothing. He will fight that fight tens of times in his mind. Dream about it. Week as it gets closer to that fight, sometime he win. He ain't gonna tell you, sometime he lose. And then I say, well, you know what, man, remember when we did, you know, to break him off of that, because it'll eat you up.
With all the residue of anger that Joe had from what happened before the first fight, what had happened before and during the second fight and after these fights, Joe was ready to lay his life on the line. And he did.
Le Thrilla in Manila est l'une des premières retransmissions mondiales en direct. À cause du décalage horaire, pour satisfaire le public américain, le combat a lieu dans la matinée.
Good morning. It's morning here in the Far East, and good evening if you're elsewhere. I'm Don Dunphy, your ringside commentator at the Philippine Coliseum, which is jumping with about 28,000 boxing fans.
This is the first time I've seen this. All the years I've been watching.
Madison Square Garden in 1971, the challenger makes the first appearance. Joe Frazier, 31 years old.
I was in the dressing room with my father before the fight. The atmosphere was kind of quiet. He said, they said a word of prayer, and then we marched out. I said, Lord, I want you to give me the strength, the power to know how to kill this damn boy.
The challenger enters the ring to a really good reception.
I don't believe anybody thought that Joe would win. I was just kind of hoping that Joe wouldn't get embarrassed, but certainly nobody expected the great fight we got.
Here comes the champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. He's on his way into the ring now.
The day of the fight was surrealistic because it was 10 o'clock in the morning. And 10 o'clock in the morning in Manila is an indescribable time. First of all, the sun has just come up and the stickiness of the night is still there, but cooked by the sun. So what you got is boiling water for atmosphere.
Muhammad Ali.
It was just running down. I was sitting like this. It was so intensely hot. I've never felt heat like that before in my life. Not a breath of air. Nothing. And that was sitting there. Can you imagine being in the ring? I don't know how they did it.
$125 degrees. We were fighting against each other. Then we were fighting against the heat.
From Louisville, Kentucky, USA, the heavyweight.
Filipinos go for the underdog. And Frazier had been so battered in media and battered on television and radio by Ali that they cheered Frazier and booed Ali.
More booing, I would say, than cheering.
Filipinos like people to be graceful, and you call the other side guerrilla.
That surely will be something Frazier will want to make him pay for.
Une heure avant la rencontre, personne ne sait qui sera le troisième homme du ring. L'organisateur Don King a fait venir 3 arbitres américains. Mais après ce qui s'est passé lors du deuxième combat, l'entraîneur de Joe Frazier, Eddie Futch, les refuse tous les trois. Voici celui qui les remplacera au dernier moment. Un Philippin qui ne parle pas un mot d'anglais et qui, dans son pays, est plus connu pour ses talents d'acteur que d'arbitre de boxe.
You look a bit like your Brinner there.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't notice that. That is 32 years ago. I was 41 years old at that time.
The winner of our main event will go this handsome trophy. Will be mine. Donated by His Excellency Ferdinand E. Marshall.
Didn't bother me. My mind wasn't to take him apart. He didn't have no idea that the third fight would be as tough as the first one. I want to damage him.
So they're set to go, and Ali is doing precisely what he said to me he would do. He's telling Frazier what he's going to do to him, and Frazier's talking back to him.
What was he saying to you?
He said, he's going to whip me. I'm the champion, I'm the greatest. Okay, great. You know, I'll break you in that bell.
So it's the old show once again.
I can't tell you how exciting boxing is when you're a part of it, when you're in the corner. When the bell sounded in Manila, I thought the top of my head would go off.
Georgie Benton était l'un des trois soigneurs de Joe Frazier.
I was in Frazier's corner all the way. That one, I'll never forget where I was. Yeah, that was the greatest heavyweight fight in history.
And when it starts, it's like hard to breathe. I mean, you're just there like, here it is, you know, and here it's happening right in front of you. It's like just this amazing feeling that comes over you when you're close to it, too.
I was standing, I guess, on the apron side of the ring, but I felt like I was right inside the corner. You know, I could hear everything, I could see everything.
The excitement was there, the heat was there. And more important, both fighters were hurt fighters. And they could have hurt each other. I didn't know that either one had the capacity to kill the other.
Ali, gloves high, exaggeratedly so.
Too far away. Yeah, too far away, smoke. Need to get a little closer.
And Ali puts it all in because he hurt him.
Ali's intention was to knock him out in the first 5 rounds. He almost did. There was a couple of places where Joe buckled real good.
End of 2 rounds. Both of them have gone to Ali.
Joe was not getting down low enough, and it was eating a lot of Ali's jabs.
Au lieu de se promener et de danser comme il l'a promis, Ali reste au milieu du ring et affronte Joe Frazier pendant 3 reprises acharnées. Et puis, il commence à faire son cinéma.
During the fight, he said, a 1, a 2. Every time Frazier to a 3. Jack be nimble and Jack be quick.
So during the fight, Ali was singing nursery rhymes.
Yes, yes. Is that all you can give? You ugly gorilla. Come on, hit me. Come.
That's the way he broke out of a corner off the rope and knocked down Foreman. That's a good attack by Ali. Turns his man. I don't know when I've seen Ali in as aggressive mood as this. Not for years. He really does look as though he wants to nail Frazier to this canvas for good and all. What a round that was.
Great fights between great fighters are few and far between. In the early rounds, Ali was dominant. He was moving, jabbing. Joe couldn't get to him. And the first few rounds, you said, okay, Ali's going to win this fight.
This was almost a replica of Ali and Foreman last year.
In the 4th or 5th round, somewhere's in there, Joe hits him with the right hand.
Frazier using his right hand a little more now.
I didn't think Joe could tie his shoes with his right hand. And Ali pulls back and he says, "You don't have no right hand. You can't do that. You can't do that." Bing, he hits him with another right hand. Suddenly, Ali had to think, well, there are 2 hands in this fight on the other side. That was very important.
Ali, for some reason, he didn't do it. He was hitting the best shots he could, and it wasn't hurting as much as it should. It's just, my God, that guy can do much.
Ali doing the holding as he has done it most of the fight.
I was the first one to stop the fight when he hold Frazier at the back of the head, pull him, and push him.
And Ali gets his first fortune from referee Padilla for holding Frazier around the back of the neck. It's an old trick of Ali's that he's been practicing for years.
En sanctionnant Ali, l'arbitre permet à Frazier de s'emparer du match. À la 5e reprise, il domine le combat et bloque Ali dans les cordes en le bombardant de violents crochets du gauche.
All them crazy words he said about me, I'm gonna take your money. I tried to take him out with every shot I threw at him.
Muhammad Ali, great man, done a lot of great things, but overrated. Overrated as far as boxing ability and skill goes. Ali hit like a butterfly. Joe Frazier hit like a bee. When Joe hits you, you feel it, it's like a domino. It go up down your body like you stick your in, like you stick your fingers in, you know.
This is a super Frazier tonight.
There were tremendous hooks. And you have to understand, normal fighters would not have continued. I mean, it would have been over. This fight could have been over 6 times.
He wasn't just beating Ali, he was beating Ali up. Big difference.
Pendant 6 reprises successives, Frazier se venge sur Ali en le travaillant uniquement au corps. Il vise le cœur, le foie, les reins.
My instructions to Joe was this. So now what you got to do is stay right on top of Ali. Hit the sandwich anywhere. Hit him on the hips, hit him on the leg, hit him anywhere. Once I stopped your organs and those kidneys and livers stop functioning, he can't move but so bad. Sure it works. Man don't live by his head. The organs in his body have to be functioning. If you slow him down, he can't do what he wants to.
When Joe had Ali on the ropes, he would hit him on his hips. This raised hematomas, huge hematomas, so Ali's hips started locking up on him.
And Ali looks tired. He looks very tired.
After 4 rounds, I thought of 2-1-1 for Ali. But from the 5th round through the 11th, I only gave Ali 1 round.
I couldn't watch many of it because you could hear the sounds when the fist could land on the other side.
And more it becomes apparent that Ali is being put to the greatest test of his career here tonight at the age of 33.
Ali thought he was dying. In the 10th round, he said, I think this is what dying is like. I said, no, you're not dying. We've got a little way to go before you get to dying. Like after the 15th round, you can die, but up to that point, you got to keep fighting.
And it's my impression there's a lot of concern in the Ali corner and beginnings of jubilation in Frazier.
Nature of boxing, nature of the sport is never to quit. A man's fight to the death, short of the death, if you can hope for it, but there's sometimes the death. And on the other side, it's about you keep continuing on, no matter how bad it looks like you're not. I mean, that's what the attraction is. That's what the whole thing is about. If you don't have that, then don't go to boxing.
Des années de violence verbale et de rancœur poussent les deux hommes à se battre jusqu'au bout. Aucun des deux n'est prêt à s'incliner devant l'autre. Il ne reste plus que 5 reprises, et c'est à celui qui tiendra le plus longtemps.
Fight to the finish between the two arch enemies, and they must have very nearly thrashed the hate out of each other by now.
Both men were completely spent. The difference is that Joe's eye was closing. Joe, by that time, was almost blind in one eye before the fight. Now his good eye was closing.
Beautiful, straight left, followed up by the right. Combination punches.
He came back and told Eddie Futch that he couldn't see the right hands coming.
So how long, Joe, have you had a problem with your left eye?
1960... 64, 65. That's right.
So how on earth were you winning all those fights with just one eye?
Didn't last that long.
À l'exception de son entraîneur Eddie Futch, tout le monde ignore que Joe Frazier s'est battu durant toute sa carrière avec une vision partielle de l'œil gauche, conséquence d'un accident lors d'un entraînement en 1964.
This man Frazier, time and again, has had Ali on these ropes. Has to take punches to try to keep him there. It's onto his stool. The 33-year-old champion seems to be more and more tired.
Avec son œil droit qui se ferme peu à peu, Frazier affronte les dernières minutes du combat le plus important de sa carrière, pratiquement aveugle.
Two good fighters getting together. The best in the world are getting together. And one of them is blind. You can't ignore that. You cannot ignore that. That is not only a signal of how sick the sport is, but it's a signal of how dumb Frazier. One of the things about Frazier that nobody wants to step on, and I certainly don't. I don't want to do anything to step on Joe Frazier, but Joe Frazier was dumb.
In the 13th round, Ali throws a right hand and knocks Joe Frazier's mouthpiece into the 5th row of the press row at ringside.
There goes the gun to Frazier, knocked clean out of his mouth by right hand.
This is 13.
Ali said, damn, I never thought Summers could stand up like that. Look at the shots Joe got hit with. He got hit with some hell of a shots, didn't he? And it kept coming. Damn, I don't really, I was in the corner, and I don't know how the hell he stood up.
What keeps a fighter going in situations like that, in those final rounds?
Nothing but this.
A lot of blood coming from Frazier's mouth. Ali looking unmarked, but tired.
Blood and guts, determination.
And Frazier looked almost on his last legs at the finish there. That's a big round for Ali. And he flops onto his stool, exhausted with the effort. And so does Frazier.
Georgie Benton and Mr. Futch and all them had decided, they said, Joe, if you don't look good in this 14th round, we're going to stop the fight.
He has to get up off that stool and come back into it after being almost punched to a standstill in the 30s.
If you had to say, what's the attraction of boxing, you show the round 14. So you want to see what makes people come and scream and holler? Look at round 14.
Will it go the distance, or will one of these collapse before the end? Smelling salts being waved under the nose of Frazier, not looking quite as though he knows where he is.
Oh, and out of it, though.
What's Eddie saying to you here?
All right. All right, keep your hands up now. You want to go back out there? You got to go back there. You ain't got to go back out there. Let's go.
Bill Ali has never managed to have Frazier off his feet. Not at any
Round 14, the closest I've seen somebody come to killing somebody. He was very close to killing him. Very close. He was hitting them straight right hands with a left jab in front, open.
Frazier's badly hurt.
It's the most brutal of the 41 rounds that they fought. There are 5 or 6 times where Ali throws combinations where you expect Joe to fall. And he staggers, but his will keeps him up.
Frazier's left eye is shutting. His mouth is bleeding. And for the first time, he's looking at out-and-out loser. Punching has got to Frazier at last. He's screaming all over the ring.
It's what gets people killed in boxing, where the fight becomes more important than life and death. And that's why people die in boxing.
I love boxing. I love these two guys. But at that time, I hated it. I mean, in the last round and a half, I thought to myself, somebody's got to stop this.
And Ali can take him out if he's got the strength.
Nah, he could take me out, though. We was dead, both of us. I was dead. I'm fighting back, but I'm fighting out instincts.
Coming to the end of the round. There it is. And Frazier reels about the ring on summer legs. He doesn't know where he is or what he's doing. Eddie Futch comes to him.
They're my ringside notes of the Manilla fight. And I ended up 63-63 after 14 rounds, which has been 7-7.
After 14 rounds, as I recall, I had Ali ahead by a point. And I felt if Joe could stand up and punch, then he could either knock him out or we might well have a draw. Either Ali was going to win by 2, or it was going to be a draw, or somebody was going to get knocked out. And as usual, I was wrong.
You know, it was kind of a crazy thing. There's a guy who used to be in my father's training camp. His name was Willie the Worm Monroe. Willie the Worm was on the other side of the ring. And I could see Willie like...
He heard Ali say to Angelo Dundee, cut my gloves off after the 14th round.
Manilla Mohamed, who was a corner man for Ali, told me something that I had never heard before and found extraordinary, but Ali later confirmed for me, which is Ali went back to his corner and said to Angelo, cut him off. He was exhausted.
And since after round 14, I was ready to quit myself. I was ready to say, Ali said, that's enough, it's okay with me. Because both of them were getting killed.
Alors que Mohamed Ali demande à son camp d'arrêter, Joe Frazier, même s'il est presque aveugle, veut absolument continuer le combat.
And Joe was getting hit with so damn many hard punches, and Eddie Futch kind of figured maybe he should stop this fight.
And somebody in that corner wants to stop the fight. They're arguing about it.
No, man, let me continue. I don't want to stop. Let's keep on going. No, come on, Ed.
Somebody in Frazier's corner is saying he ought to be stopped.
Told Eddie in the corner, don't stop this fucking fight. Don't you stop this motherfucking fight.
And you see, I said, no, you can't see. Says I can see. I can make you run. No, yo. And he tells me, how much I got? I said 1. Yeah, okay, you can call us off.
And Eddie Futch is calling it off. It's all over, and Mohamed Ali at the end of the 14th round is a TKO winner. He did it in the end, the hardest fight of his life.
Dundee, I think it was, who pointed over there and said, they're cutting the gloves, cutting the gloves. And Ali got up and looked and went right down to the ground. He couldn't stand up.
And Ali's out on his back in the ring. He's collapsed. Ali has collapsed on his back.
Because he was going to say that he would come back out. The whole thing. Yeah.
And he's in just as bad a way as Joe Frazier, who had to go first.
The last sentence says, Joe reeling from headshots. That's just about what it was. He almost went down. It would have been sad. It would have been sad for the referee to stop it with Joe on the floor. It really would have been a sad ending. He didn't deserve that. I was just wondering if it had been a draw. Oh boy, that would have been beautiful.
I believe that Ali was significantly more exhausted and had been beaten so much to the body that there is a real chance that if Eddie Futch had not stopped the fight in the corner after the 14th round, that Ali would not have come out for the 15th round and Joe would have won. I know that's what Joe believed at the time.
When they stopped it, I was like, why? So I know how hard he worked, and I know the determination he had, and I know how he feels about pain. So why? You understand? You let him go through what you just went through for these last 2 rounds. You just can't explain it because you know what it took. Not just the days and the weeks of training camp. It took you to think of all the years that it took to get to that position. One time I added up all the rounds that Joe fought and all the miles that he ran. I can't remember what it is, but I really did it as close as I could. It was like he ran around the world like 3 times. I've never been any place where that one drop, like, bing, and your life has changed. I mean, that was a big no. You know what I mean? Big for that second. You know what I mean? And I would have never thought, see, to me, I would have never thought about it. Because I know him. And I know he would have went out there. I know it.
I had tears in my eyes. It was that emotional for me. Because I know it hurt Joe that he had to stop it that way. It wasn't about losing. I mean, of course, he didn't want to lose. But if I gotta lose, let me go out on my shield then. Don't stop me sitting on my stool.
Were you disappointed it was stopped? Well, I wasn't happy about it, but I want to continue going on.
Joe was really ripping and roaring at Eddie Futch and George Benson, and said he'd never speak to them again. He never, you know, he was really furious.
Were you hurt, Joe? Were you hurt? I wouldn't say I was hurt because I feel like I got to continue.
The amazing part of Eddie Futch's act was Eddie Futch, if he was like a lot of ringsiders, me included, he didn't think Joe was losing. He wasn't sure Joe was losing. To stop that fight was quite a courageous act.
How much trouble were you in, Joe? How groggy? How beat up were you, 13? Well, not beat up. I just couldn't see.
I interviewed Eddie Futch shortly before he died, and I asked him, do you have any regrets about not letting Joe out for the 15th round? And he said, none whatsoever. And I said, why? I said, I've seen 8 men die in the ring. He recounted to me the circumstances of 8 ring deaths that he had seen personally.
Would you have been willing to risk your life to go out for that final round?
Yeah.
How did he feel after the fight?
Talking big. Get that motherfucker back again. You know, that's what he said. I want a rematch with this motherfucker. He didn't win that fight, you know, like that kind of stuff.
He is tough. He's a great fighter. I'm so tired, I don't want to do nothing. I want to rest for 1 week. My hips.
Des années plus tard, Mohamed Ali dira « Si jamais Dieu m'appelle pour faire la guerre sainte, je veux Joe Frazier à mes côtés. » Et juste après le combat, il a cherché à se réconcilier avec lui.
Following the fight, the security comes over and says, guys from Ali's dressing room want Butch. What? What? Now everybody's looking at me like, woo, why does Ali want to see you the first thing after this fight? I go down to Ali's dressing room, we push through all the press, and he says to me, listen, is his son Marvelous around? I'd like to apologize for what I've been saying.
He said, Marvelous, I just wanted to apologize to you and your father and your family for the things that I said. And he said, make sure you tell your father that, you know. So I told Pop, and then Pop said, you know, hey, son, why didn't he say it to me? He said, you're not me, son.
He said in front of all them people, he said all them things, all them nasty words, all them things. He said, let them come to me and tell me.
Nobody won that fight in my mind. Each one of these guys is Ahab, and the other is the black whale. They never get him. But on the other hand, they have to chase him. That was the moment both should have locked arms and walked into the sunset. That was the moment they should have said enough.
And so, for the first time, Muhammad Ali manages to stop Frazier inside the distance, but at what cost to his own strength, his own resources, and his own future.
What was the effect of that fight on Ali, do you think?
It was the end of his career. He should never fought again. Never fought again. But he wanted to keep going. And the Muslims wanted to keep going. And Angelo Dundee wanted him to keep going. And the world wanted him to keep going, except me. I'm the only one that said, that's enough. Don't go again. He's pissed in blood. He can't walk straight. He can't talk straight. He can't see straight. He couldn't pass a real exam if they gave him a real exam.
I'm just proud to let them see the stuff that they said and how much damage I've done to this man, both mind and body. Let them see.
I don't think Joe was mellowing towards Ali, and I don't think Joe will ever mellow. Joe has said things to me like, you know, he beat me in Manila, but I sent him back worse than he came. He'll look at Ali with great satisfaction and say with a not particularly nice smile, I did that to him. Every now and then he'll say something along the lines of forgiveness, usually before some economic opportunity, but then very quickly afterward he reverts to form.
When Ali was lighting the torch, one of the reporters here in Philadelphia said, Joe, you know, what do you think about Ali lighting the torch? You know, he said, I think it should be pushed in the flames, you know? And I said, Pop, you know me? He said, yes, I did.
Have you ever dialed his cell phone? You never dialed your cell phone? You never hear what he says on his cell phone? You want to hear what he says on his cell phone? Give me my cell phone. Let's pull that out.
My name is Smoking Joe Frazier. Sharp as a razor. Yeah, float like the butterfly, sting like the bee. I'm the man in the job, you know, look and see. Call me. Bye-bye.
I really try to tell him there's no sense in being like that because, you know, like, hey, what's done is done, you know? Or you can't walk around with a burden for the rest of your life. You got to forgive, you know?
I clearly won the fight. And the proof is in the pudding. I'm talking to you, I'm walking. I'm a lad man. I'm still having fun. At 63, how old am I? Yeah, 63, I'm still having fun. I'm just hoping that, you know, somewhere down the line that he would like ask the Lord to forgive him, that's all. You know, the whole thing that we have done, and he said, before you take that last, you do this, you ask for forgiveness. I don't think there's a guy around could wear my shoes. I don't think a guy around could wear my hat. He can put it on, but it wouldn't suit him.